Hello, everyone. It's Karen J. Quarles here, coming back to you with another video. Thank you so much for coming back. If you are a returning visitor, if you are here for the first time, thank you so much for joining. If you heard a little bit in my last video, I was a little under the weather. I'm still healing, so give me a little grace if I need to cough during this video as well. But I'm going to try to get through this really quickly. And today I want to talk about, as you see in the title, faith to keep going. And I want to talk about this simply because I know how it feels to be in a waiting season and a waiting period. Something it may feel like a waiting lifetime or a waiting era where you feel like you are always just in a holding pattern or always waiting. And I know it can be a very difficult place to be, but I just wanted to encourage you all as you are in this place because I feel like, and this is actually not even in my notes already. Okay, so I feel like we are in this season where we're on the brink of an era of blessings after blessings after blessings for many of us who have been waiting and been faithful and truly surrendered to God in a way that the world thinks is absolutely impossible or crazy or outlandish. You have been doing it. You have been faithful. You have stayed the course. You have trusted God. You have continued on this journey, regardless of how difficult it has become or been for you in these days. You've had some of your darkest days and moments in these years of obedience, and the trials have come, the testing have come, the spiritual attacks, all of the different things have come. You've been talked about, you've been lied on, people have laughed at you, people have ridiculed you, you have gone through so many different things. And I know that this is a moment where you know you're on the brink of the best days of your life, but it's hard to keep the faith. So I just want to encourage you to continue to hold on to your faith, because you don't want all of the things that you had to go through, all of the ways that you suffered and sacrificed over all these years, all these moments that you've had with God. It wasn't for nothing. And I don't want you to give up prematurely, because too many people give up in the suffering stages of their lives, or the processing and the purging and the pruning stages, and they don't get to the promised land because for us, it's just taking too long. But I want to encourage you today to just hold on to your faith a little while longer. So, a couple of things that I want to pinpoint are just some definitions, because I always like to anchor myself back with definitions when I feel like I'm getting a little bit off track, or just my mind is straying in ways that are just not going to be beneficial for what God has for me. And I know one of the hardest things to do when you are in a faith stretching season is for you to stay focused on the right thing, right? It's not so much about being fixated on what the promise is, it's about understanding that the faith part, like that's the part that God is actually looking at from us and looking at in order to bless us through the belief that we knew it was going to happen all along. No matter how long it's going to take, we stay postured in that thought process, right? So I was looking at the Bible, and one of the things that it talks about in Hebrews 11:1, where it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." I'm going to read it one more time. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? And I know that in this day and age that we're in, everything is so visible. But even the world tells us, because I looked at the dictionary definition as well, it says belief that is not based on proof is what faith is. Belief that is not based on proof. And the reason why these are so important for us to keep ourselves anchored in and focused on is because so much of what makes us tired is because we are looking at too much at what other people are doing. And whether we want to admit it or not, we have all compared ourselves to other people. We're looking at other people. We have so much exposure to what everything and everybody else is doing in this world. So part of what helps me to get re-anchored when I feel like I'm losing hope, losing faith, and I'm getting tired, because part of this whole thing that in this middle process, the enemy wants to tire you out. He wants you to get weary. That's why the Bible tells us to not get weary in our well doing. Keep doing the good things that you're supposed to be doing, and God will continue to strengthen you and give you everything that you need to go from faith to faith to faith, because what he promised, he's going to deliver. So I just want to leave you all with three things that I focus on and that I do in these moments where it's getting a little bit harder to keep the faith, because the truth is it's harder to keep the faith because you can feel that it's so close, but yet it's still intangible. Like you can't touch it, you can't see it, but you can feel it in your spirit that is there, right? So when I find it challenging to believe or to just stay focused on that thing, what the first thing that I do is I take a break from social media for at least 24 hours. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I will get off of social media for extended periods of time. And I'm not talking about where people like, oh girl, I got off of social media for 2 weeks. Like, no, I will take a year or 2 years off of social media if I feel like it's too much of a distraction, or if it is capturing my attention in toxic ways, right? If I feel like I'm not even so much comparing, but just focusing on other people's results, not knowing that there is not a parallel to your chapters just because you see somebody doing the thing that God promised you and they're living in their promised land while you are still in the desert, in the wilderness, right? And the challenge with that is you can start to desire or covet what other people are having, and it's like, no, number one, you don't know how they got it, you don't know if they got it with God, you don't know if they went around God to get it, and you also don't even know if they're going to keep it based upon the lifestyle that they live. Are they operating in obedience? Are they even a child of God? Whatever it is, you have to make sure that the focus is on you and what you are doing, focusing on your assignment, your intimacy and relationship with God, because I don't ever want to acquire somebody else's results, because that means that I have to do everything that they did to get what they got, and I don't know what their life be looking like. Okay, I can only speak for me. So I think one of the first things to do is important to take a break from social media for at least 24 hours. If you are able, which I hope you are able to do it for even longer, do it for even longer, because sometimes we really just need to unplug from all of this stuff because our brains are so overstimulated with everything but what we need to be focused on. So taking that time to take a break from social media so that you can stop the process of absorption. Sometimes the sponge of our brain is too full, and what that will allow you to do is to turn off social media so that you can wring out all of that excess water and foolishness that you have absorbed in the process of looking at other people's lives, looking at advertisements, looking at all of the different things that can be perpetuated through these tiny screens of ours that we have so come to love, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I encourage you to do is to really get still and sit with God. And when you get still and sit with God, I want you to practice this whole thing of say nothing. And I say this because a lot of people, we always talk about getting still and getting with God and then praying, right? And I absolutely encourage that 100%. But I've also gotten myself in the habit of knowing how important it is to just sit with my Father, right? To just sit with Him, to be able to be like, you know what, Lord, I don't have a request. I don't have anything. God searches the heart. He knows the deep things of our hearts. And sometimes, excuse me, guys, and sometimes I just feel the need to just sit in his presence, right? I may even turn on some, I don't know, some instrumental worship music that is very, very lightly playing in the background. But sometimes I'll just sit with God, be still, and get absolutely quiet and just take some deep breaths and just commune with the Father in a quiet space. If you can find one that is uninterrupted or undistracted by anybody else, it really, really, really recharges the soul. It regenerates the spirit to help you to really get anchored again, so that the busyness of everything around you is not consuming you, but the stillness of the Father is overtaking you. I love to be in a position where I feel enveloped by the Holy Spirit. That is my absolute favorite place to be in the world. So I encourage you to do that. Okay. So, first thing, take a break from social media for at least 24 hours. I encourage you to do it for even longer if you're able to. And then the second thing is to get still and sit with God and literally say nothing. And then the third thing that I encourage you to do after you've done those things is I want you to get out a journal and begin to agitate your memory, right? And what I mean by that is simply sometimes we get so accustomed to our lives and we get so I almost I almost think we become way too common with ourselves and our lives that we forget the things that God has done before. So when I say journal and agitate your memory, what I'm saying is remind yourself of what God has done for you that you were once only waiting for, because you had plenty of waiting seasons before that you're now living in a manifested promise every day. And at some point, you went from celebration to sobriety to normality. And now it's just a thing that you don't even think about because you forget how blessed you are, because the blessing becomes normal, and God wants our blessings to become normal, but don't make it so common that you're so familiar with who you are and what God has done for you that it removes the gratitude and the remembrance out of who God is and what God said that he would do for you, that you are now living, resting, abiding in the very place and thing that he said he would once only give to you, that you had to live by faith to receive. So I want you to agitate your memory and write those things down and begin to just say thank you to God. Like whatever the thing is, and then end it with thank you. And when you do those three things, that will help you in this whole process to like have the faith to keep going, to know that the same God who did it for you again, who did it for you before, he's ready to do it for you again and again and again, because God is the God who gives good gifts to his children. He loves to fulfill promises to us. So he is not looking to never make the thing happen. So I just want to encourage you to have the faith to keep going, because whatever you are hoping for is coming. And I guarantee you that it is actually closer than you think. So I hope this word was helpful for you guys. Please share it out to those that it may be helpful for. I would love it if you stick around and like, subscribe, and share my channel out. And I hope to see you on the next video. Take care.